White, blinding light flooded the emergency room, sharp and icy against the eyes. Lying on the hospital bed, Iris Shaw had a needle fixed firmly in her left arm. Warm, crimson blood flowed slowly through the transparent plastic tube, dripping steadily into a cold blood collection bag. She turned her head slightly, peering past the tangled medical wires and monitors toward the nearby hospital bed. Her husband, Ethan Carter, was holding another woman's hand with a tenderness so careful it bordered on reverence. The woman was Clara Bennett. Her face was drained of all color, her lips pale and lifeless, her long dark lashes trembling faintly. She looked fragile and frail, a broken butterfly clinging weakly to the last threads of life. Ethan, Clara's voice was faint and breathless, laced with a perfectly crafted tremor of fear and vulnerability. "Am I dying?" "I'm so scared." "You're not dying." Ethan's fingers tightened gently around hers, his tone soft, warm, and infinitely gentle, a tone Iris had never once heard directed at herself in their years of marriage. "The doctor said a blood transfusion will fix everything. Just hold on a little longer, Clara. You'll be fine soon." In the blink of an eye, he turned his gaze toward Iris. Every trace of warmth vanished from his features in an instant, leaving only frigid, unyielding cold. "Have they finished drawing your blood yet?" His voice was sharp and detached, as if he were inquiring about the progress of a mechanical device rather than speaking to his wife. "400 cc's isn't enough. Draw another 200 if you have to. Clara's blood work is still far too low." Iris said nothing. She simply watched the man she had married, the man who always appeared polished, distant, and impeccably composed in front of her, lean forward to tuck the hospital blanket tighter around Clara's shoulders. His movements were impossibly gentle, deliberate, reverent, as if he were handling a priceless, fragile treasure that might shatter at the slightest rough touch. No one paid her any mind. Ethan Carter's entire world had narrowed down to the fragile woman lying in the hospital bed before him. He lowered his voice to confer anxiously with the attending doctor, his brow furrowed with genuine worry, every fiber of his being focused entirely on Clara's condition. From over Ethan's shoulder, Clara opened her eyes, her gaze sliding lazily toward Iris. There was no guilt in those eyes, no gratitude, not even a petty, triumphant malice. Only cold, unapologetic indifference. She looked at Iris not as a human being, not as a wronged wife, not even as a stranger. She looked at her as a functional machine, a blood donor who had fulfilled her temporary purpose and could now be discarded and ignored. Iris shifted her gaze away, her heart settling into a quiet, hollow numbness. She pushed herself slowly upright on the hospital bed as the nurse pulled the needle free from her arm and pressed a thick cotton gauze pad over the tiny puncture wound. Fresh blood seeped instantly through the pad, blooming into a stark, vivid red stain against her deathly pale skin, a raw and jarring contrast against the sterile white of the hospital linens. Still, no one noticed. Iris slid her legs over the edge of the bed and stood unsteadily, her head spinning faintly from the sudden blood loss. The hallway outside the emergency room was empty and silent, save for the distant rumble of a janitor's cleaning cart rolling down the linoleum floor. The overpowering stench of antiseptic hung thick in the air, sharp and chemical, thick enough to churn her stomach. She leaned weakly against the cool tiled wall, closing her eyes for a brief moment to steady her breathing, then pulled her phone out of her coat pocket. The screen lit up instantly, displaying a single unread message sent exactly 7 hours earlier. The sender's name was simply Ethan. * Clara's anemic and hospitalized. She has a rare blood type, same as yours. Come to downtown General Hospital this afternoon to get your blood tested and donate some for her. *. No question. No gentle request. No could you, would you, or are you free. It was a cold, unyielding command, no different from a routine work order he might issue to an employee at his company. And today was her 27th birthday. Iris stared at that single line of text for 10 long, silent seconds. No anger flared, no tears pricked her eyes. All she felt was a slow, freezing calm settling deep in her bones. She exited the messaging app and opened a hidden, password-protected folder on her phone. The folder was simply labeled Records. Inside lay a meticulously organized archive of scanned documents, screenshot evidence, audio recordings, and dated photographs, all compiled slowly and carefully over months of quiet observation. The most recent photo, taken 3 days prior, showed the cover of a legal document locked inside the safe in Ethan's home study. A stock transfer agreement. Transferor: Ethan Carter. Transferee: Clara Bennett. Asset: 15% equity stake in Carter Group Enterprises. Handwritten in Ethan's bold, looping script across the memorandum section was one cold, definitive word: gift. Iris zoomed in on the photograph, studying the handwriting until every curve and stroke was burned into her memory. She reviewed the image 3 times in full, then locked her phone and lifted her gaze toward the closed emergency room doors at the end of the hallway. Behind those doors, her husband fretted and worried over another woman, pouring out every ounce of his care and concern for someone who had deliberately set out to destroy her marriage. Outside, she stood alone in the sterile hospital corridor, pressing the bleeding gauze to her arm, and smiled faintly. She was 27 years old. She had been married to Ethan Carter for 2 years and 3 months. For 2 years and 3 months, she had been the perfect, obedient wife. She had maintained their sprawling mansion flawlessly, dressed immaculately as his +1 for every corporate gala and social event, stayed day and night at the hospital to care for his parents during their illnesses, and even drained her entire personal fixed-term savings to bail out his company during a severe cash flow crisis, never once complaining or demanding repayment for the lost interest. She had fulfilled every single duty expected of a loyal, devoted Mrs. Carter. In return, she had received nothing but a cold text ordering her to bleed for his lover, and a secret stock transfer agreement, gifting away millions in marital assets without a single word to his wife. Iris tossed the blood-soaked gauze into the nearby trash can and turned toward the elevator. Her phone vibrated softly in her pocket. It was a call from Mara Cooper, the private investigator she had hired months prior. "Miss Shaw," Mara's voice was steady, crisp, and professional, lacking any unnecessary emotion. "I've obtained the final set of documents you requested regarding Clara Bennett's so-called rare blood type. I'd strongly suggest you sit down for this." Mara's private investigation firm occupied a discreet, unassuming office suite in a quiet East Side business tower, operating under the bland public name of Integrity Business Consulting, a typical corporate registration firm that attracted no unwanted attention. When Iris arrived, Mara had already brewed a cup of warm tea and pushed it across the polished desk toward her, sliding a thick manila folder of compiled evidence forward in the same motion. "I'll cut straight to the findings," Mara said, gesturing to the top page of the file. "Clara Bennett does not have a rare blood type. Never has." Iris's fingers paused halfway toward the folder. "What is her actual blood type?" "Type B. The most common, ordinary blood type there is." Mara flipped to a scanned lab report tucked inside the file, tapping the printed blood type classification clearly listed on the official document. "This is her physical examination record from last year at the City Wellness Clinic. It's officially filed, unaltered, and clearly states Type B. But when she registered at Downtown General Hospital last month, her medical records were suddenly updated to Rh-negative AB, an exact match to your supposed rare blood type." Iris stared silently at the falsified hospital report, her expression calm and unreadable, meaning every record claiming her rare blood type was forged. Not strictly forged, tampered with and swapped. Mara flipped to a page filled with screenshot evidence of private text conversations. She bribed a lab technician at the hospital named Zachary Miller for $5,000. He created 2 falsified medical reports on her behalf, one certifying her as a rare Rh-negative AB donor, and a second fraudulent document confirming a perfect cross-match between your blood and hers. So today's blood donation was never medically necessary to save her life. Not in the slightest. Mara flipped to the final page of the folder, displaying a detailed pharmaceutical analysis report. Clara has a long-term prescription for loratadine, a standard over-the-counter allergy medication that's completely harmless on its own. But our medical research team confirmed she was administered a secondary injectable drug exactly 24 hours before your scheduled transfusion. She pointed to the highlighted chemical analysis on the page. This specific drug triggers an acute anaphylactic-like reaction when paired with Rh-negative AB blood. The symptoms include plummeting blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, and severe respiratory distress, symptoms that appear extremely life-threatening to onlookers. But crucially, the reaction is temporary and non-lethal. The patient recovers fully within a few hours with no permanent damage. Iris scanned the entire analytical report slowly, then leaned back gently in her chair, her eyes calm and unblinking. The office was quiet, save for the low, constant hum of the central air conditioning system. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city skyline stretched gray and hazy, endless rows of concrete buildings blending into the overcast sky. Piece by piece, the entire cruel scheme unfolded clearly in her mind. Clara had planned every single detail from the very beginning. She had bribed hospital staff to falsify her blood type and forge a perfect donor match, manipulating Ethan into believing Iris was the only person alive who could save her life. She had pre-injected herself with a specialized drug designed to trigger a terrifying, near-death reaction the moment Iris's blood entered her veins. She had never needed Iris's blood to survive. What she had needed was a scene, a witness. A convincing, visceral moment for Ethan to watch his wife's blood nearly kill the woman he loved. A few minutes of violent, terrifying symptoms were more than enough. Enough to flood Ethan's heart with fear and rage toward Iris. Enough to paint Iris as a cold, malicious woman whose very blood poisoned the person he cherished most. Enough to completely destroy Iris's reputation in her husband's eyes, erasing every year of loyalty and devotion, clearing the final obstacle standing between Clara and full control of Ethan's wealth and status. Today had only been the first step of her calculated, long-game takeover. Miss Shaw, Mara's steady voice pulled her back from her thoughts. This body of evidence is more than sufficient to press formal criminal charges. Felony medical record falsification and premeditated aggravated assault are both prosecutable offenses. I can compile a full police filing package and submit it directly to the precinct whenever you're ready. Not yet. Iris closed the manila folder smoothly, setting it aside on the desk. Keep these documents secure for now. I'll reach out when I need them. Mara studied her quietly for a moment, hesitation flickering across her features. You have something to say, Iris said simply. I've worked private investigations for 12 years, Mara said softly, her tone earnest. I've seen countless cases like this. Women who scheme and manipulate their way into marriages and fortunes. The worst mistake you can make with someone this calculating is mercy. Every inch you yield, they'll take a mile. Iris stood from her chair, tucking the folder securely under her arm, her expression unwavering. I won't be giving any mercy. As she reached the office door, Mara reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a thick brown envelope, handing it over without fanfare. Your final request from last week. Ethan Carter's complete personal bank statements and transfer records for the past 12 months. Iris accepted the envelope without opening it immediately. Thank you, Mara. Call me anytime. By the time she stepped out onto the street, the sky had fully darkened, streetlights flickering on one by one to illuminate the evening cityscape. Standing on the sidewalk, Iris tore open the envelope and spread the stacked bank statements across her palm. Line after line of typed transaction records stretched before her, cold and undeniable proof of betrayal. Her gaze scanned downward, freezing on one repeated pattern of transfers. $50,000. Transferred 3 months prior to Clara Bennett, no memo, no explanation. Another $50,000. Then $30,000. Then $20,000, in endless small, discrete increments designed to avoid notice. Quick mental calculation confirmed the total, over $400,000 in personal marital funds, secretly transferred from Ethan's private accounts to Clara in a single year. Only 2 months earlier, Ethan had come to her with a fabricated story of company cash flow collapse, begging her to mortgage the downtown luxury condominium she had purchased entirely with her pre-marriage savings. He had pleaded for a $300,000 loan to stabilize his failing business. Iris had agreed without hesitation. She had signed over her property, sacrificed her personal asset, and approved the mortgage without a single second of doubt. The day the $300,000 loan cleared into Carter Group's corporate account, Ethan had wired the entire sum to an offshore shell company, then split the money into dozens of small, untraceable payments, all funneled directly to Clara. Iris folded the bank statements neatly and slipped them back into the envelope, closing her eyes against the cool evening breeze. She remembered the early days of Ethan's pursuit, 3 years prior. He had stood outside her university apartment for 4 straight hours in pouring rain, refusing to leave until she agreed to meet him. He had told her, voice sincere and fervent, "I have no faith in anything in this world, Iris, except you." She remembered her birthday 1 year ago. He had been supposedly overseas on a business trip, yet flew back overnight, arriving at her door at 1 a.m. still smelling of airplane cabin air, pressing a delicate platinum necklace into her palm. He had sworn to her that he would never miss a single birthday for the rest of their lives. Once, she had believed those words were pure love. Now she understood. They had merely been bait, laid carefully by a hunter waiting patiently for his prey to settle fully into his trap. Iris opened her eyes, slipped her phone out of her pocket, and dialed a saved number. The call rang 3 times before being answered. "Miss Shaw." The voice on the other end was crisp, authoritative, and razor-sharp, the voice of Lena Watson, the most formidable divorce attorney in the city. Known professionally as the marriage terminator for her unbeatable track record in high-stakes marital litigation. "Lena," Iris said, her tone steady, unshaken, utterly devoid of emotion, "we're moving forward with the divorce. Full proceedings, exactly as we mapped out 6 months ago. There's more." She paused, her gaze fixed on the glowing city lights stretching endlessly before her. "I want every illicit marital transfer recovered in full. The $400,000 in secret personal transfers, the $300,000 mortgaged from my private property, all of it. And I want Ethan Carter held fully accountable for every lie, every betrayal, every harm he's caused me over these 2 years." Lena Watson fell silent for a beat, a faint note of genuine admiration entering her professional tone. "I've been waiting 6 months for you to say that, Iris." That night, Iris did not return to the sprawling hillside mansion Ethan owned, the house everyone assumed was her perfect marital home. Instead, she drove to her downtown condominium, the quiet 2-bedroom apartment she had bought entirely with her own earnings before marriage. The down payment had come from her university quantitative trading profits, every fixture and furnishing handpicked by her own taste. Ethan had always dismissed the space as cramped and shabby, insisting she move into his opulent mansion to play the role of the prestigious Mrs. Carter. She had obeyed, but she had never sold the condo. It had remained her quiet sanctuary, the only place she could breathe freely away from the suffocating pretense of her perfect marriage. The apartment was spotlessly clean, maintained weekly by a cleaning service she had never canceled. Iris tossed her bag onto the sofa, drank a cold bottle of water, and settled at her desk to open her encrypted laptop folder. This digital archive was far more comprehensive than the limited records on her phone. 2 full years of quiet, meticulous evidence gathering lay organized in neat, categorized files. The first section contained every bank record, asset fluctuation, and corporate financial loophole for Carter Group enterprises. Long before marrying Ethan, Iris had run a full due diligence report on his startup. She knew every financial trick small CEOs used to siphon and launder company funds. Every instance of inflated operating costs, related party transactions, and offshore fund diversion Ethan had deployed to hide marital asset theft was carefully marked, time-stamped, and documented. The second section held Clara Bennett's complete background file. Her falsified medical records, bribe receipts, manipulated lab results, drug administration history, and a full timeline of her history of manipulating married men. The investigation even uncovered a public altercation from her university years, when she had been publicly confronted and slapped by another girlfriend whose partner she had attempted to seduce. The third section contained 3 fully drafted legal documents: a formal divorce agreement, a court application for full asset freezing, and a criminal complaint outlining premeditated aggravated assault. The earliest draft of these documents had been written 6 months prior. From the very first moment she had discovered Ethan's lies, she had begun preparing for this day. No impulsive decisions, no emotional outbursts, only quiet, unrelenting preparation. Iris reviewed every clause and legal term meticulously, adjusting minor phrasing for maximum legal leverage, then closed her laptop and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city night. For 2 years, she had walked away from her high-paying finance career to become the docile, obedient Mrs. Carter. The world insisted she had married far above her station, an ordinary girl from a modest family who had lucked into marrying a wealthy young CEO. Ethan's mother had always smiled at her with thinly veiled condescension, her polite words carrying unspoken disdain. Ethan's friends addressed her with casual, patronizing deference. Even the household staff whispered among themselves about how fortunate she was to have landed such a wealthy, successful husband. No one knew the truth. No one knew her personal bank balance dwarfed Carter Group's total market valuation by a staggering margin. No one knew Ethan's passionate, relentless pursuit of her had never been rooted in love. Iris returned to her desk and pulled out the final document from Mara's envelope, a supplementary investigation report dated 3 years prior, predating Ethan's courtship. The title page read, "Background Investigation Report, Iris Shaw, ordered by Ethan Carter." She flipped through the pages slowly. 3 years earlier, exactly 1 month before Ethan had first approached her with his romantic advances, he had commissioned a full, exhaustive background check on her. Every detail of her education, family background, personal assets, and professional connections had been compiled and delivered to his desk. At that time, Carter Group had just closed its series of funding round. Outwardly, the company appeared prosperous and rapidly expanding. Beneath the polished facade, the business was teetering on a critical cash flow crisis, desperate for powerful industry connections and capital infusion to survive. And Ethan's investigation had uncovered Iris's hidden, untold power. Her older cousin, Alara Shaw, was the founder and CEO of Shaw Biotech, one of the nation's most valuable biomedical unicorn startups, boasting annual revenue exceeding $20 million and an imminent IPO. Iris personally held a 34% equity stake in Shaw Biotech, making her the company's second-largest individual shareholder. The stake originated from her $200,000 university investment. Every cent of her youthful trading savings poured into her cousin's fledgling startup. Through subsequent funding rounds and controlled dilution, Iris had retained her substantial equity share. By the time the company's valuation soared past $1 billion, her holdings had grown into a staggering, life-altering fortune, one the entire elite social circle knew nothing about. Ethan had learned every detail from that investigation report. He had pursued her not for her beauty, not for her gentle temperament, not for any fleeting spark of attraction. He had pursued her purely for her wealth, her equity stake, and her elite industry connections. Iris read the final handwritten note from Mara at the end of the report. Asterisk subject's investigation priority explicitly marked personal asset verification and family industry influence. Subject's romantic advances were strategically motivated for financial and corporate resource gain. Asterisk. Memories flooded back, sharp and clear. Their first dinner together, Ethan had not asked about her hobbies, her favorite foods, or her dreams. His first question had been whether she maintained extensive connections within the investment industry. In the months before their wedding, Ethan's parents had surprisingly waived all requests for a prenuptial agreement. She had wondered why at the time, unaware Ethan knew full well a legal contract would permanently separate her private Shaw Biotech equity from his marital assets. Year after year of marriage, Ethan had pressured her repeatedly to sell her company shares and invest the proceeds into his failing business, framing every manipulative request as spousal partnership and shared family growth. She had refused only out of a personal promise to her cousin, never to sell her stake before the company's official IPO. Now she understood. Her loyalty and integrity had inadvertently preserved her only lifeline, shielding her fortune from his greedy, grasping hands. Her phone vibrated sharply on the desk. Ethan's name flashed across the screen. Iris stared at the caller ID for a long moment before answering. "Iris?" His voice held clear impatience and irritation. "Where are you? Why aren't you home?" "Out." Her reply was flat, emotionless. "Clara spiked another fever tonight. You need to return to the hospital tomorrow morning for another blood donation." Iris gripped the phone tighter, her tone unyielding. "Ethan, Clara's pregnant with your child, isn't she?" Dead silence erupted on the other end of the line. Only his ragged, shocked breathing filtered through the receiver, stretching on for 10 long, taut seconds. "What did you say?" His voice was tight, guarded, instantly defensive. "I saw it." Iris spoke calmly, without malice, without anger. "The prenatal exam report in your study safe. 7 weeks gestation. Your signature on the patient emergency contact line." Ethan's breathing grew rapid and strained. "Iris, let me explain." "Explain what?" She cut him off smoothly. "Explain the child isn't yours? Explain you were merely acting as a family friend? Explain the 15% company equity you gifted her was just a casual favor." Another heavy, suffocating silence. "You went through my safe." Ethan's voice turned cold, sharp, and resentful. "You dared to go through my private property. We're married." Iris's tone dropped to icy steel. "Am I not allowed to access my husband's property? Or is every corner of your home filled with secrets you never wanted me to find? Did you honestly think I would remain your obedient, ignorant wife forever?" A faint, humorless laugh escaped her lips. "I'm tired." She gave him no chance to retaliate or defend himself. "We'll discuss tomorrow's arrangements another time." She ended the call instantly. Walking to the window, she pushed the glass open wide, letting the cool night wind rush into the apartment, clearing the stale indoor air. Down below, a street food barbecue stall glowed with warm, bustling light. Groups of young people laughed and drank together, their carefree voices drifting upward on the breeze, thick with the ordinary, genuine warmth of human life. Her marriage, by contrast, had never contained a single thread of authenticity. Every smile, every promise, every tender gesture had been a calculated performance, designed to exploit her loyalty and drain her resources. Iris closed the window and walked to her bedroom, dragging a small rolling suitcase from the bottom of her closet. The case held no clothing. Inside were only her most vital, irreplaceable documents: her household registration, identification cards, professional certifications, and official Shaw Biotech equity holding certificates. Tucked in the corner was a private black bank card, holding every cent of her pre-marriage wealth and investment returns, untouched, untainted by her 2 years of fraudulent marriage. She sorted and verified every document meticulously, locked the suitcase securely, and set it by the front door. After washing her face, she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Her features were soft, her skin fair, her youthful appearance belying her 27 years. Only the faint exhaustion in her eyes betrayed the quiet toll of 2 years of suppressed disappointment and heartache. She remembered the day Ethan had proposed. He had booked the city's most exclusive fine dining restaurant, surrounded her with candlelight and soft piano music, knelt on one knee, and presented a 3-carat diamond ring. *, marry me, Iris. Everything I have is yours, from this day forward, *. She had believed every word. She had smiled and extended her hand, certain she had found a lifelong love. The diamond ring still glittered on her left ring finger. Iris twisted it free slowly, setting it gently on the vanity countertop. A pale, faint white ring marked her skin, the faded indentation of 2 years of misplaced devotion. A scar that had finally healed over. The next morning, Ethan Carter waited in vain for Iris at the hospital. He dialed her number 7 times, every call immediately sent to voicemail. His text messages bounced back with an automated friend verification alert. She had blocked him entirely. At exactly 11 a.m., a black luxury sedan pulled up outside the Carter Group Enterprises headquarters. Iris stepped out of the car, Dressed in a tailored cream business suit, her hair neatly pinned into a sleek professional updo, subtle, polished makeup lending her an air of quiet, unshakable authority. Behind her walked three people, Lena Watson in her formal dark attorney's blazer and wire-rimmed glasses, and two legal assistants carrying official document cases. The front desk receptionist stared in stunned surprise. She knew Mrs. Carter well, but she had never seen the quiet, docile wife arrive at the corporate headquarters with such formidable legal backup. "Is Ethan Carter in his office?" Iris asked calmly. "Why, yes, ma'am, but he's in an important meeting." Iris did not wait for permission, stepping straight toward the elevator. As the elevator ascended to the top executive floor, Lena handed her a freshly issued court document. "Court-ordered full asset freeze, issued this morning. Every bank account, corporate equity stake, and property registered under Ethan Carter's name is fully frozen effective immediately. He cannot liquidate, transfer, or access a single asset." Iris scanned the document briefly and handed it back. "What about Clara Bennett's assets?" "Her 3 personal bank accounts and 2 residential properties are also frozen." Lena adjusted her glasses, her tone crisp and professional. "One of her properties can be directly traced to illicit marital fund transfers from your husband. We have full legal grounds to pursue complete asset recovery." The elevator chimed softly, opening onto the top-floor executive suite. Through the half-open blinds of the corner office, Iris could see Ethan pacing behind his oversized executive desk, speaking sharply into his phone, his expression thunderous and agitated. At the sound of the elevator opening, he lifted his head. His phone conversation cut off instantly at the sight of Iris standing in his doorway. He ended the call abruptly, standing quickly. "Iris? What are you doing here?" Iris pushed the office door fully open, stepping inside with her legal team following closely behind, closing the door securely behind them. "I've come to deliver official documentation." She placed the court asset freeze order squarely in the center of his desk. "Your entire asset portfolio is court-frozen as of this morning." Ethan snatched up the document, scanning the legal text rapidly. His face drained of color, rage flashing across his features instantly. "Asset freeze?" He lifted his head sharply, pupils constricting with fury. "On what legal grounds do you have the right to do this?" "Unauthorized disposal of marital joint assets during marriage." Lena stepped forward, her voice clear, unwavering, and legally precise. "Mr. Carter, over the past 2 years, you have privately transferred over $400,000 in marital funds to a third party without your spouse's knowledge or consent. This constitutes a serious violation of marital property laws, justifying the court's freezing order." Ethan ignored Lena entirely, his furious gaze locked solely on Iris. "You investigated me." His voice was low, dangerous, gritted between his teeth. "You dared to investigate your own husband." "I only wanted answers," Iris replied evenly. "I only wanted to know where the $300,000 from my mortgaged private property ended up." Ethan's face froze completely, shock and disbelief rippling across his features. "You know. I know everything." Iris's gaze did not waver. "My property's mortgage funds entered your corporate account, were immediately offshore laundered, and split into 10 separate payments for Clara. You used my personal assets to fund your affair, Ethan. Was I not entitled to the truth?" A suffocating silence descended over the executive office. Ethan's jaw tightened violently. After a long, tense pause, he let out a bitter, defeated laugh, leaning back against his desk with arrogant, reckless resignation. "Fine. You know everything. Clara is pregnant with my child. So what?" Iris's expression remained calm, unchanging. "So we're getting divorced." "Divorced?" Ethan's laugh turned mocking and condescending, his eyes sweeping over her with blatant disdain. "And what exactly do you have to leave me for, Iris? Have you forgotten everything you have is mine? This mansion, your car, your parents' medical bills, your brother's business startup funds, all paid for by me. Without me, you're nothing but an ordinary, broke nobody." He stepped forward, towering over her, his tone sharp and humiliating. "What exactly do you have to fight me with?" Iris lifted her chin, meeting his condescending gaze without fear or hesitation. She pulled a folded document from her bag and placed it on the desk before him. It was a certified equity ownership certificate. Shareholder, Iris Shaw. Company, Shaw Biotech. Equity stake, 34%. Attached was the company's latest official annual financial report, displaying staggering annual revenue, net profit, and total asset valuation figures in bold black print. Ethan's arrogant smile shattered completely. His eyes widened in raw, disbelieving shock. Shaw Biotech. He stared at the document numbly, lifting his head sharply. You're Alara Shaw's. Her cousin. Iris finished the sentence for him calmly. And a founding shareholder. I invested all my university trading earnings into her startup in the early days. That initial investment is now worth well over $100 million. Every trace of color drained from Ethan's face, leaving him deathly pale. You never told me. His voice was hoarse, disbelieving, broken. You never told me you investigated me before we even met. Iris's tone was quiet but cutting. You spent a month researching my assets and connections before you ever said hello. You pursued me not out of affection, but because my equity stake and industry connections could save your failing company. I didn't. Didn't what? Iris stepped forward, her gaze sharp and unyielding for the first time. Didn't investigate me? Or didn't plan to exploit my wealth from the very start? Tell me, Ethan, was any single word you ever said to me genuine? Ethan's mouth opened and closed uselessly, unable to form a single rebuttal. Iris placed a formal divorce agreement beside the frozen asset court order. This is the official divorce settlement. All marital property will be divided per legal pre-marriage terms. Your assets remain yours. My private assets remain mine. I will fully recover all $400,000 in secret transfers and the $300,000 mortgaged from my property. Additionally, she flipped to the final clause of the agreement, pointing directly at the legal text. Under State Civil Code 1091, a spouse guilty of marital infidelity causing marital breakdown is liable for compensatory damages. I am claiming $300,000 in emotional distress damages. The full sum will be donated to the National Women's Rights Foundation in your name. Ethan's hands clenched tightly at his sides, his knuckles bleached white with rage. And if I refuse to sign? We will proceed with formal litigation. Lena interjected firmly. Ms. Shaw has compiled complete evidence of your illicit asset transfers, extramarital relationship, and confirmed pregnancy. Additionally, we have filed a criminal complaint against Clara Bennett for medical fraud and premeditated aggravated assault. Civil and criminal proceedings will run concurrently if you choose to contest the settlement. You will face both financial penalties and potential criminal liability. Ethan stared at the documents before him, his chest heaving with suppressed fury. You planned all of this from the very beginning, didn't you? I planned nothing initially. Iris shook her head softly. I genuinely intended to build a life with you. You're the one who destroyed every piece of this marriage, step by step. She turned toward the door, pausing halfway to glance back over her shoulder. Sign or refuse, the divorce will happen regardless. No one gets to stop me from walking away from a life I no longer want. I stayed silent because I chose to. I'm leaving because I finally choose myself. She exited the office without a single backward glance, her legal team following closely behind. In the elevator, Lena spoke quietly. You perfectly shattered his psychological defense just now. The revelation about your equity stake completely unraveled his arrogant confidence. Iris stared at the changing floor numbers, her tone quiet and precise. He's not upset about hurting me. He's upset his carefully laid trap backfired. He feels defeated by his own prey, not guilty for his crimes. What's your next move? Finalize the divorce first. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor lobby. Before Iris could step outside, a frantic figure came rushing toward her. Clara Bennett. She wore an oversized white dress to conceal her early pregnancy, her hair disheveled, her face pale and panicked, clutching a crumpled court asset freeze notice in her trembling hand. The moment she spotted Iris, she lunged forward wildly, raising her hand to slap her across the face. Iris, how dare you freeze my accounts? Iris stepped aside effortlessly, catching Clara's wrist with a firm grip before shoving her gently backward. Clara stumbled clumsily, crashing hard against the lobby wall. Instantly, she clutched her stomach, her eyes filling with terrified tears as she stared up at Iris. Iris knelt down, meeting her tearful, panicked gaze at eye level, her voice low and calm, only audible to Clara alone. "Don't worry. I won't touch you. Your child is innocent, regardless of how deceitful its father is." Clara's lips trembled with rage and fear. "You vicious witch." "Me?" Iris's gaze turned cold and unforgiving. "You falsified medical records, bribed hospital staff, injected yourself with dangerous drugs to trigger a life-threatening reaction, and plotted to frame me for your murder attempt. Who is the truly vicious one here, Clara?" Clara's eyes widened in pure, horrified realization. She knew. Every last detail of her scheme was exposed. Iris stood upright, looking down at the crumpled, sobbing woman at her feet. "I will submit every piece of evidence of your fraud and assault to the police. You and Ethan will both face the consequences of your choices." She stepped past Clara without another glance, walking straight out of the corporate building into the bright midday sunlight. The sun shone bright and sharp overhead, temporarily blinding her. She lifted a hand to shield her eyes, breathing in the fresh outdoor air. After 2 years of suffocating pretense, hidden pain, and silent endurance, the broken pieces of her old life had finally fallen away. In their place stood something far stronger, colder, and unbreakable. She climbed into the waiting car, Lena and the legal team following behind her. As the vehicle pulled away from the building, the rearview mirror captured Clara collapsing onto the pavement, surrounded by confused security staff, looking small, desperate, and discarded. Iris pulled out her phone and dialed Mara's number. "Mara, you can submit the final evidence package now." 3 days later, Ethan Carter signed the divorce agreement. He did not sign out of remorse or regret. He signed because Lena delivered a final, devastating document the following afternoon, a fully compiled tax audit report detailing 2 full years of unreported income, falsified corporate expenses, and systematic tax evasion at Carter Group Enterprises. "Mr. Carter," Lena had stated calmly, "this report will be officially submitted to the IRS for formal investigation the moment you decline to sign the divorce settlement." Staring at the mountain of irrefutable evidence capable of dismantling his entire company and sending him to prison, Ethan finally surrendered. He tossed his pen violently onto the desk after signing, slumping back in his chair with hollow, defeated eyes. "You win, Iris. You've won everything." Iris filed the signed agreement neatly into her document folder, her tone entirely unaffected. "This was never a competition. I only stopped being your tool." She turned to leave, pausing at the doorway to speak one final time. "There's something you never figured out." Ethan lifted his lifeless gaze. "You spent a month investigating me 3 years ago, discovering my wealth and connections. You thought you'd found a wealthy, naive target to exploit." Iris's voice held a faint, unyielding coolness. "But the investigation firm you hired? Its founder is my university roommate." Ethan's chair crashed backward onto the floor as he shot to his feet, face contorted in raw shock. "I arranged for that investigation report to reach you." Iris delivered the final, crushing truth evenly. "You thought you were hunting prey. You were the one being hunted all along. I waited to see if any part of your pursuit was genuine." She smiled faintly, without warmth. It wasn't. Not a single part. The office door slammed shut behind her, the sound of crashing furniture echoing loudly from inside the room as Ethan finally lost his temper. Iris did not look back. Walking through the parking lot, she lifted her hand to the sunlight, watching the faint white ring on her left finger fade completely away. She dialed her cousin's number. "Alara, I'm divorced." Alara Shaw's warm, brisk voice came through the line instantly. "Finally. Good riddance. I'll book dinner tonight, invite Lena too. We're celebrating your freedom." Iris smiled genuinely, the first unforced, heartfelt smile she had felt in 2 years. "Okay." In the month following her divorce, Iris rebuilt her life completely, step by step. She renovated her downtown condominium, repainting the walls soft gray, replacing heavy curtains with elegant dark green velvet, and filling every balcony and windowsill with lush green plants. She lived alone, waking naturally to morning sunlight, cooking for only herself, no longer waiting up late for a husband who never cared to come home. She accompanied Lena to the police station to formally submit all evidence against Clara: the bribe records, falsified lab reports, drug injection records, and full premeditated assault timeline. The case is officially opened for investigation, the attending officer confirmed. However, legal protocol prohibits custodial detention for women in the third trimester of pregnancy. Formal legal judgment and sentencing will be postponed until after childbirth. That's fine. Iris nodded calmly. I can wait. As she exited the police station beneath a light drizzle, Lena held an umbrella over her head. You're willing to let her live in freedom for months longer? Legal process must be respected. Iris walked steadily through the rain. Besides, waiting in constant fear of impending punishment is a far harsher sentence than immediate consequences. She'll spend every day of her pregnancy terrified of the future she created. Iris returned full-time to Shaw Biotech, reclaiming her position in the company's investment department. Ilara had kept her senior investment director position reserved for her throughout her entire marriage, waiting patiently for her return. You're back to crush the competition, aren't you? Ilara asked over office tea one afternoon. I'm securing what's mine. Iris sipped her tea calmly. Ethan's company still stands, weakened but not defeated. I won't leave him any room to recover. Then take the platform. Ilara slid her old company access card across the desk. The team's been waiting for you. In her second week back at work, Iris led and finalized her first major investment project. She invested $6 million into Vital Medical Tech, a small grassroots company specializing in digital infrastructure for community hospitals. The firm was run by a brilliant, unassuming female founder with exceptional technical skill but no talent for self-promotion. 20-plus investment firms had rejected the project, dismissing it as low-profit and unglamorous. Iris saw its true potential. She spent a full week analyzing every financial report, client contract, and growth metric, building a comprehensive valuation model before meeting the founder for a 4-hour conversation over simple noodle bowls. Within 3 days, Shaw Biotech signed the official investment agreement, securing a 15% equity stake in Vital Medical Tech. The entire investment industry was baffled by the seemingly counterintuitive move. Only insiders understood the strategy. Vital Medical Tech controlled the largest grassroots hospital channel network across 3 regional states, the exact business partnership Ethan had spent 2 years desperately pursuing, never able to secure. With Iris's investment, that critical business channel was permanently locked away from Carter Group Enterprises. That night, an unknown text message arrived on Iris's phone. Asterisk, you invested in Vital Medical just to block me, didn't you? You've ruined my company. Can we please talk, just once, to fix this? Asterisk. Iris did not hesitate to reply. When you ordered me to bleed for your lover on my birthday, did you ever offer to talk? She blocked the number permanently. Walking to her balcony, she watched the endless stretch of city, lights glowing in the night. She had learned long ago that the best revenge was never destruction of another person. It was building a far better life without them, letting them watch helplessly as you thrive while they collapse under the weight of their own mistakes. She had not destroyed Ethan. She had simply reclaimed every single thing he had stolen from her. 1 month later, Lena contacted her with an update. Ethan's mother came to my office today. She's been waiting 3 hours, insisting on meeting you to apologize in person. Iris fell silent for a long moment. She had never harbored personal hatred for Ethan's mother. The older woman had always looked down on her modest family background, regarded her marriage as a lucky promotion, and treated her with condescending politeness for 2 years, but she was not the one who had betrayed her. Tell her no apology is needed. Iris replied finally. She did me no wrong. I have no desire to meet anyone connected to that past life. She ended the call and leaned back in her office chair, staring quietly at the ceiling. No pain, no anger, no regret lingered in her heart. Only empty, clean peace. She scrolled through her photo gallery, finding the wedding photo she had kept hidden for 2 years. Young, naive, smiling, standing beside a man who had pretended to love her. She deleted the photo permanently. Opening WeChat, she messaged Alara. "I'm done with the past. Let's have hot pot tonight. I'm celebrating my new life." Alara replied instantly. "On my way. Also, a venture capitalist stopped by the office looking for you this afternoon. I sent him away but kept his card." Moments later, a photo of a business card popped up on her screen. Name, Shinyu. Title, Founding Partner, Yucheng Capital. Beneath the printed information was a neat, handwritten note in steady, elegant script. Asterisk Ms. Shaw, I've read your industry analysis on grassroots medical channel development and deeply admire your perspective. Would love the chance to discuss future cooperation over coffee at your convenience. Asterisk. Iris studied the neat handwriting for a long moment, a faint, genuine smile tugging at her lips. She saved the number to her contacts. Clara Bennett gave birth to a healthy baby boy in early winter. Ethan reportedly cried when he heard the news of his son's birth, but his fleeting joy vanished within 24 hours. On the baby's 1-month birthday, the police official summons arrived at Clara's door. Freshly postpartum, still physically recovering, Clara held her newborn son in her arms as she stared at the official criminal notice, her face draining of all color. "Ethan, please." She clung desperately to him, terrified. "You have to fix this. I can't go to jail. The baby needs his mother." Ethan stood frozen by the window, smoking a cigarette, his face ashen and defeated. He had no solutions left. His corporate assets remained fully frozen. The IRS tax audit was in full progress. Creditors hounded him daily. His parents' life savings had been completely drained trying to salvage his failing business. He had no money, no power, no influence left to protect anyone. For the first time, he fully understood the truth Iris had revealed on the day of their divorce. He had never been the hunter. He had been the naive, greedy prey all along. Iris had seen every one of his moves from the very start, waiting patiently until he had destroyed his own marriage, reputation, and fortune before finally ending the game. He sank into his desk chair, covering his face with his hands as the first winter snow fell silently outside the window, covering every trace of his past glory. On the winter solstice, Iris signed a formal letter of leniency at Lena's law firm. The letter was not for Ethan or Clara. It was for Zhang Suelan, a 52-year-old cleaning staff member at the downtown hospital. During Clara's medical fraud scheme, the cleaner had been on night shift duty. She had not participated in the crime, but had been penalized for failing to supervise lab access, fired from her job, and repeatedly summoned for police questioning. Her husband had suffered a stroke around the same time, leaving her family financially devastated and mentally broken. Iris had discovered her unintended suffering while reviewing case materials and immediately decided to offer leniency. "You're far too ruthless with your enemies and far too kind to the innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire," Lena remarked softly, watching her sign the document. Ethan and Clara chose their destruction. Iris capped her pen calmly. She did nothing wrong. She walked to the office window, basking in the rare warm winter sunlight filtering through the glass. "I spent last year's birthday alone in a fancy restaurant. I waited 4 hours for Ethan, watching my dinner grow cold, hoping he would come. All I received was a text message saying he was tending to Clara." Her voice was quiet, reflective, no longer wounded. "I heard an old song playing in the taxi on the ride home that night. The lyrics said, 'When love turns to thorns, longing becomes obsession.'" Lena stepped beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder in quiet support. Outside, dead winter leaves swirled and drifted away on the wind, vanishing into the distance. The winter sky was clear, vast, and bright blue, washed clean by seasonal winds. Iris smiled faintly. This year, she would finally have a peaceful, happy birthday. Spring festival arrived quietly. On New Year's Eve, Iris spent the holiday at Alara's home. The two sisters made dumplings together, opened a bottle of red wine, and watched the Spring Festival Gala as fireworks bloomed endlessly across the night sky. As the midnight bell rang, a text arrived from an unfamiliar number. Happy New Year, Iris. I know you won't answer my calls or read my messages, but I needed to say I'm sorry. I've owed you this apology for years. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope every year of your life is happier than mine. Ethan, *. Iris glanced at the message for 2 seconds, then locked her phone screen. She lifted her wine glass toward the midnight sky, whispering softly to herself. Happy New Year, Iris. Happy new life, free from pain, betrayal, and pretense. After the Lantern Festival, Iris received a formal cooperation email from Xinyu of Yucheng Capital. He attached a 15-page in-depth analysis report on biomedical and grassroots medical channel collaborative investment strategies, showcasing precise data modeling and unique industry insights. Iris spent the afternoon reviewing the report before dialing his number directly. Mr. Shin, your channel syncing data model is impressive. I'd love to discuss it in person. Xinyu's warm, gentle laugh came through the line. The model still has room for improvement. Coffee tomorrow morning? My treat. Sounds good. She ended the call to find Alara leaning in the office doorway, grinning knowingly. New business partner? Professional cooperation. Iris returned to her work calmly. Sure. Alara teased. I also checked his background for you. Single, clean record, reputable industry reputation. No red flags whatsoever. Iris shook her head, smiling helplessly. Outside the office window, March spring sunshine streamed warm and bright. Magnolia blossoms bloomed in full white clusters along the street, swaying gently in the soft spring breeze. Iris grabbed her coat and walked toward the downtown cafe. Last year, she had stood alone in a cold hospital corridor, bleeding and broken, believing her life had ended in betrayal. Now she understood. That had only been a painful turn in the road. A brand new future waited ahead. She stepped into the sunlit cafe, spotting Xinyu waiting by the window. He stood instantly, greeting her with a warm, gentle smile. Good to meet you, Miss Shaw. Thank you for waiting. Iris sat across from him, her expression calm, relaxed, and genuinely at peace. The spring wind brushed gently against the window, carrying the faint fragrance of blooming flowers. On the table between them, the investment report lay open, the final line handwritten in elegant script. Looking forward to a pleasant cooperation. Iris lifted her gaze, meeting Xinyu's warm eyes with a soft, genuine smile of her own. Her old story was finally over. Her new life had only just begun.